Yes.
It's doing it. You need to sit further back.
No.
And not block me with your coffee cup.
Yes, dear.
Alright, go.
Intro. Opening. What are we doing again? Okay. Normal people's playbook.
The normal person's playbook.
I like people's, you know.
Okay, it says normal persons right there. We made notes. You agreed to the notes.
Damn it. Sounds like something I'd do.
It is definitely something you do.
Now, the title implies that we're not normal people and that we're trying to be normal people. Discuss.
Okay, so essentially we should talk about who you are and who I am and why this came about. So you go first.
My desire to be normal.
Yeah.
Why are we making a podcast on a Saturday night instead of consuming alcohol in a public place?
And boning people.
Look, I feel like I'm quite good at boning people, but I feel like you might be better at it. Possibly have had better luck.
I am better looking, so that's true. Why?
Look, your eyes are limpid pools of loveliness, alright? And
right. The song Electric Blue was written about me. So, seeing as Michael Zuper is not willing to share, I'll share. So coming from a place of, I would say, 22 years of addiction, using drugs and alcohol, one can get slightly skewed as to appropriate behaviour when one puts those substances down. Hence the need for a guidebook, because many, many times since I have not had a solution of drugs/alcohol, I have had absolutely no idea what to do at that point. And yeah, it would be very, very nice if there was a normal person's guide to how to deal with things. So like, I just kind of went a bit mental and screamed at my boss for no apparent reason because I was having feelings.
Yep.
What would the normal person do? Because my solution would be quit, move states, proceed to get really drunk, change my identity, another option. And so, obviously appropriate thing is, sorry about going spastic.
Apologise, yeah, okay.
Let's get back to, task at hand and everyone's okay. And so that's where I'm coming from, needing normal person's guidebook. How about you?
Could be useful. Actually, I would like to respond with a question. Okay?
I would like to answer your question with a question of my own.
Yeah. I was pondering this today, actually, that I still consume caffeine in this form and Coke Zero, not so much energy drinks, and eat like ridiculous amounts of cheesecake. That's like my vice, is cheesecake and coffee, right? But I don't use them reactively as trigger self-medication. Like, that's not how the amount that I consume works. It's more like baseline expecting to be... Do you think that that's still a problematic maladaptive addiction, or that justifying it as it's not a trigger?
I just think nobody's perfect. Like, this is the thing, and I think that, you could say that anything is... Like, what are we supposed to do? Just not fucking do anything ever. You know what I mean? Like, is the perfect state... Like, if we take that to its nth degree, is the perfect state lying still in a darkened room, perpetually meditating? Like, is that... You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I drink coffee. Like, I smoke, 28,000 packets of cigarettes and so much caffeine. And it's fine. It's fine. And... You kind of because drinking several cups of coffee doesn't make you abuse your family.
Yeah.
And it doesn't get you into risky or crazy situations. You're like, whoa, I went to got myself a long black and, 6 days later, Tijuana. It doesn't work that way. So I think it's fine.
Yeah, and I mean, smoking is a good example of just like being consistently on the level. It's like, okay, this is just the thread of consistency that I have in my life. It's like caffeine, nicotine. This keeps me feeling similar all the time, like, which is...
Well, I'm just smoking. Well, I mean, but, you know, I think everybody has ups and downs. I just think that, you know, sort of addicts become more sensitive to those. And there's that underwriting vibe, like, I should feel good all the time. Because I'm very like, why can't I just feel great at all times? Why? Huh? Mofos? That's what I want to know. Why?
Or like, okay, you know, like content at all times. Which I think's, you know, smoking and coffee and stuff, it just gives you consistent contentness.
You just get to chill out for a second. I don't know. Like, I mean, I just think, you know, a packet of smokes never gave me the nickname Chapel Street Cougar. So, you know.
Look, I gave you that name, right?
Margaritas definitely did. I would say margaritas definitely contributed to that.
Can we just high five for how far we've come? Because, like...
yes.
You know, falling face down, pants around ankles on Chapel Street versus...
You know...
Coffee and cigarettes.
Pleasant coffee at 7 p.m. on a Saturday. Like a legend. And...
and food, man. Like, eating, you know.
Fucking eating. Don't even start me on eating. God, what a mess that is. But,
do you remember though when you like do drugs and stuff as a teenager? Like you wouldn't eat like all weekend. It was just like
I would eat for days and days and days. Days and days and days and days and days. I'd just be high.
Yeah.
Just and like really high, like really. And do you know what's really funny? So when I stopped drinking, because I was really like, oh, drinking's obviously the problem, and drinking's my only problem. I was really like, oh, drinking, you know. And even then, like the rate of denial is amazing. So I would go to meetings or whatever and people, you know, like other recovering alcoholics would say things like, you know, oh, I used to keep booze under my bed. And I'd be like, loser! Like, you are a fucking loser. And I was like, oh my God, what a joke that person is. And also, like, gross. Who the fuck? And they're like, oh, and I would reach under my bed, like, looking for the bottle of wine. And I'm just like... That's pathetic, firstly. Secondly, it's warm. Like, that's disgusting. And I was sitting there and I was really just like, oh, losers. And then it took about a month or so. And I remember I was like kind of just thinking about it. I was like, yeah, all these people with booze under their beds. Like, how many people have booze under their beds? And I was like, oh my God, I used to have booze under my bed. I used to keep Gordon's gin and tonic pre-mixed bottles under my bed because I could drink them warm. And I would reach under my bed for those. And I was like, oh my God, I'm the booze under the bed person.
Wow.
Like, this is how bad it is. And then when you think back to, like, how many drugs we used to take and how wasted it used to be constantly. And when you say that, you kind of like, even now, you're kind of like, am I overreacting? Like, is that an overdramatic interpretation of real events? But, like, we would take ecstasy at a mate's house on a Wednesday.
I was actually talking to a guy about it today.
How old were we? 17? 18? Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you. I was talking to a kid about it today because he was talking about serotonin and well-being and food and stuff. And he goes, oh, you know, when you take ecstasy, it depletes your serotonin. And I was like, I wish someone told me that when I was 18 because, like, I was at school scraping the side off a pill to go to English class because I was like, I can't go. Okay, cool. Bit more. Now I'm back.
Let's do this.
Cool, now I can go to class. And it was because I just relentlessly taking them. Meanwhile, I'd still sell the pill with the side of it scraped off.
Well, of course, everyone does that.
And get away with it.
Who hasn't scraped the top of a gram? Like, seriously, if you have held a gram in your hand and sold it on to somebody else and you haven't had some of that gram, that person doesn't exist. Like, that is a situation where people are like, I'm sorry, that doesn't happen, ever. Ever. Like, it just doesn't. So, what are some things that have come up for us this week, which means that we need to talk about what is the normal person's reaction to these situations? Because one of the things that we have established about being an addict and living addict's existence, which is wild and crazy, is the sort of the kindest way to describe it. And now having to live a life where one crazy still happens, but your response to it needs to change, living sober. And so what has happened this week which requires our response to change?
I don't want to talk about it. No, but this is what I was saying about the maladaptive coping, though. It's like in response to, you know, don't go on a bender and wake up in Tijuana having had sex with the Uber driver that drove you there. You know, it's like
not appropriate. But the thing is, it's like, obviously we all know that we don't, you know, if I can hightail it down to, like, for example, one time I stole my dad's car and drove to Sydney in a bad patch. You know, like, I was having a bad patch and I took my dad's car and drove to Sydney. Obviously, we know that that's not good behaviour, and we know that that's an appropriate response to kind of regular triggers. Like,
what was the trigger?
I didn't like my job. I didn't like my job, and I didn't want to do it anymore. And I kind of was a bit like, I just don't know what other job I'm going to have, and I'm just kind of freaking out. And so and admittedly, in my defence, I did try to buy plane tickets to Sydney. But if I wanted to leave that day, which I did, I was out by like $20 or something, because it was like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of dollars. Like, this is 10 years ago, kind of pre $2 plane rides. And so, you know, next best decision was I conveniently had my dad's car keys and I drove to Sydney. I was very hungover. Like, I did have to stop, I think, in like Wangaratta or something, and have a sleep in like a pullover area.
Rest area.
And then the car broke down kind of probably about an hour outside of Sydney, and the NRMA guy had to kind of make it start. So we know that that's not an appropriate response. You know, when it's hungover, when it's not in their best faculties, you know.
Question.
Yeah.
Did you blame your dad for not liking your job, or is the dad consequence not even in there?
It was more like that's where my train of thinking just kind of took me. Just
like car instead of plane, and that was
Well, it was like, I've just got to get out of this situation. Leave.
Yep. Flee.
Just flee. Like, Houdini the fuck out of here. You know, just Houdini out. Just whatever you have to do. People are going to open that box and go, like, that's, you know, that's how I live my life. So, yeah.
And I guess that's the glug, glug, glug. It's just flee, you know?
Yeah, just go. Run.
Flight response, yeah.
And so now we need kind of appropriate responses, like measured responses to what appears to me like seemingly insane events. So, like, can we discuss evangelical Christianity?
Oh, as a means to flee?
Well, as a means to how are we going to appropriately respond to these situations when they arise, you know?
See, my commitment to, like, mindful violence, that keeps me afloat, because it's like going to a place of worship, i.e. the dojo. There are figureheads in place that I pay respect to, and that promise me divine
protection?
Bestowing of powers, you know? That's
I've got a weird bruise. Okay, no, keep going, sorry.
More on that later. Anyway, so that could be compared to evangelical. But do you think that works? Like, in terms of, like, addicts that you know, reformed addicts, do you think that, like, going to a place...
Well, they talk about, like, you know, finding, a power source outside of myself.
Yeah.
And I think that's more about, like, letting go of the intense control, and also the fantasy and delusion of, and denial of mind, which you tend to have. So, because the way, sort of, like, I experience it is, you know, when you're wasted... or coming down from being wasted, like, your mind is not working. Like,
yeah.
People are hallucinating, weird shit's going on. convincing yourself that it's not as bad as what it was. Like, you're telling yourself all these stories, and the reason it sort of, like, fucks with the rest of life, where it's, like, instead of being, like, you know, oh, Friday night, you know, me and Jono splitted fucking gram of Coke and then, you know, punched down 20 beers, but that's all we did, and then we went home and the rest of our lives are fine. The reason it spills over for addicts and stuff is because it spills over. It's because that storytelling and that making up shit and that constant mental gymnastics spills over into every single arena of life. And so you're making shit up, essentially. Like, to do with everything. Like, you're trying to make sense out of things that are maybe senseless. Like, you know, I can't predict when someone's going to be, like, a bit of a douchebag to me on public transport. Like, I can't predict that. But, you know, sort of when you go out into the world and when you've got this really, like, sort of messed up, addict, toxic, weird... So we're talking about, like, you know, the actual toxicity of the substance plus the emotional ruination that happens due to the toxic use of substance.
Yeah, for sure.
And then you're going out into the world and you're like, oh my God, that person was a douchebag to me. And you can just make up this entire, oh, how I'm going to get that who does that person think they are? And I'm going to make up this whole thing. And
narrative, yeah.
Yeah, and as we understand about the mind, like, and our brains, it knows no difference between the stories we tell and the actual reality we experience. And so it's going to have the same emotional response to both.
Well, a good friend of mine, Alpha Mama, who's a bit of a famous musician, she spotted Salt and Pepper, by the way. Can you believe that?
Fucking ledge.
Yeah, I know.
Does she rap?
Yeah.
Like light rap or...
Like dope skills and sing. Anyway, to quote my friend Alpha Mama, check out, like her on Facebook. She said, we're pretty lucky if the story that we choose is the right one, which made me laugh my ass off during this conversation we're having, but what she was saying was the story that we pick in our mind to make something make sense is most likely bullshit, you know?
Of course it is, because the thing is, like, you can have, like, the two of us in this situation, there are two different truths running at the same time. Like, your truth and my truth are two entirely different things. Like, I could be sitting here having absolute, like, panic attack anxiety, and I feel like shit, and I feel weird, and what's that sound, blah, blah, blah. And you're like, oh, I'm in my element, that was great. You know? And so our responses after the fact could be completely different. But we're still both right. And
you thought you were better looking than me, which I disagree with. But, you know, it's a difference of opinion, reality. Really depends if people are straight or gay as well.
I think that doesn't even come into it. The only homosexual man who has never not liked me is Ian McKellen.
Fine. Why?
So, because I screamed at him and then referred to him as Ian McKay.
Sure.
So, short story.
Didn't you have a bit of a run-in with Dan Merriweather as well?
Oh my God, Daniel Merriweather, who is an actual fucking delight. Do you know, I ended up having the best conversation with Daniel Merriweather over coffee about 3 months ago. Did I not tell you?
So this is post...
This is post everything. So this is post me telling Daniel Merriweather that I think his music is ridiculous and he needs to give up on the music career.
While drunk, of course.
Wasted. I was drinking, so I'm in the VIP section of Daniel Merriweather's little area with his boys, with a Z, and I'm smoking all of his cigarettes and drinking all of his, I don't know, I'm going to say champagne, I think it was, I don't know if it was, but, and then Daniel Merriweather asked me my opinion on his latest album. And I gave it.
You're supposed to say it's good, okay?
You're supposed to, oh, that was great. Good on you.
That's the normal people's play.
Normal person's playbook. Well, Daniel Merriweather, congratulations.
Nailing it.
And I told Daniel Merriweather that it was pretty shit. He should be embarrassed of himself. That he really should have stuck to what he was doing before, because this new stuff's kind of shitty. And yeah, like, just sorry it's bad. And And Daniel Merriweather got upset because I had essentially, like, whilst drinking his wine and smoking his cigarettes, had told him that he had no talent. And then and so at one point I got asked to leave. Well, in my mind, I somehow managed to smash everything on the table over. And that was the point I got asked to leave the VIP section. And I had to go stand. And I got belligerent as well at that right then when I was leaving. Who the fuck do you think you are?
You probably forgot you did it by the time you were...
I don't have to go anywhere.
By the time you were outside the venue, you probably forgot.
It was the next day when our friend who I was with was like, oh my God, what did you say to Daniel Merriweather last night? And I'm like, I said something to Daniel Merriweather, and that's when it all came out. And so I was very like, if Daniel Merriweather's going to be a precious princess about this whole fucking thing, he can go fuck himself. You know? And then, lo and behold, I bump into Daniel Merriweather, who is, P.S., a fucking delight. Like, he's a very, very, very delightful, lovely person. And I ended up having to take Daniel Merriweather out for coffee and explaining to him where I was at when said evening happened, and then apologising. And so no, we're good. We're good now.
You're good now.
And we had a really big chat about all kinds of stuff. My ear is still blocked from this cold. Like, what the fuck?
Speaking of sobriety.
Yeah.
Years before he was famous, we're at a party at one of the high school people's houses. And I thought it was, like, kind of arrogant of him to not be drinking.
He was very sober living. Like, he was very sober living.
But he was onto this normal person's playbook way before.
Oh, way before anyone.
And so whoever else, you know, we were marvelling at the fact that he wasn't drinking. And I was like, I'm going to punch him because that's hilarious, right? Because that was the kind of bullshit I did. And yes, it got me bashed a bunch of times. Thanks for asking. Anyway, so I was like, I'm going to punch him because he's eating a bowl of cereal. And, like, we're all, like, pounding shots and, like, doing whatever. You know what it's like. It's whatever drugs were going around on a Thursday. It was like, oh, please. And everyone's like, yeah.
I'm doing that.
Okay, we all shout each other.
Like, and you're drinking fucking anything you can get your hands on.
It's very the kindness of strangers. Like, someone who had money that day who was like, I've got these things, and you're like, oh, thank you, you know, I'll hook you up tomorrow.
How did we get wasted all the time?
It doesn't make sense in, like...
Like, when I look back on it, I'm like, I have no idea how I got wasted all the time. I still don't. Like, I look back on last year, like, I was broke.
Yeah, every day, though, you're broke, and somehow...
Every day I was drunk.
Yeah, it doesn't add up.
Like, it doesn't add up.
I think it's a cosmic, like, magnetic... You know what I mean? You just pull it
physics?
In. Like quantum physics.
It's like, oh, I'll bring this up from this universe.
And it just...
String theory work.
Yeah.
Law of attraction.
But, you know...
Oh, but you're like, I don't think that's law of attraction.
No, I'm with it. I just
think it's a law of attraction used in a different way.
Yeah, we just...
Like, everyone's like, oh, I want to bring the love into my life. And I'm like, I want to bring... Scotch.
Madness, yeah.
You know? And so, and it doesn't say, The Secret doesn't say, you can't bring Scotch. Like, that's the thing.
Oprah didn't.
P.S. This doesn't work for Scotch. And I'm like, well, Deborah, I have some... I would like to say it does.
But you know, like, I just can't find a man... I'll do anything. You know how it does the opposite?
It's the law of attraction right there.
But it repels.
I'm going to meet him tomorrow. Tomorrow never comes, dickhead. Like, stop saying...
Like, I'll quit tomorrow.
I'll quit tomorrow. I'll be pounding darts. Like, and people are, oh, but why hasn't he come into my life yet? And it's like, because you keep on saying tomorrow.
Yeah, it's the absence. You're attracting the absence. Yeah.
And you say, and so the universe is going, oh, okay, so when tomorrow... Like, he's sitting right there in tomorrow. He's sitting right there. Tomorrow never comes, fuckwit. You wake up in today. Like,
One day at a time, sweet Jesus.
One day at a time, sweet baby Jesus, Lord.
Did Jesus help you to find...
Jesus did not help me to find sober living. A strange twist of events helped me find sober living, but do you really want the timeline?
Just the most entertaining bits.
Oh, none of it's entertaining. Those dark 6 months. Oh, actually, I think I could title it pretty well. So, it all starts with the tragedy of Dad dying and divorce in the same 3 days. Sad, everyone. Sad emoji. And then did you make me start doing Spiral? So you made me start doing Spiral and I told you it was a crock of shit.
Everyone does.
I was like, this is some bullshit. But I was so desperate. Like, oh my God, I was so desperate. It was awful. And I was like, fine. Your weird fucking bullshit is gonna whatever. And I'm like, I'm not giving, you can fuck off. But we did it. We did it. And then I started boning a really large American dude. Remember?
Oh yeah, and he was a little bird. He made you feel like a little bird.
Oh my God, he was so gorgeous. He was like the biggest man in the entire world. Like a giant ginger Midwestern angel came into my life and was just glorious. And then, well, I guess he was really snuggly. That was my favourite thing.
Okay.
Because I was feeling very like alone and lost at sea, and so having like huge, like American Viking be like, meow, snuggle. I was like, oh my God, this is so great. And then I was like, I should probably stop drinking.
Did the warmth of a giant hairy man warm you better than like the scotch under the bed?
What,
gin
the booze ever would? The gin under the bed ever would?
Did it fill the same hole is what I'm asking? Did it fill
No hole was filled by any of it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Except one of them.
Oh, lol. Or two. Michael.
Wait, 3 if
wow, now
you
we all know what Michael's like in bed. Very
mediocre.
Missionary Michael. Missionary Michael.
That better not catch
I'm sorry, Peter's just going vaginas, but only. You're very like,
it never fits anywhere else.
Show me on the doll. Show me on the doll where Michael wanted you to put his penis. And it's like, oh, just my vagina. You're like, oh, fucking fuck that.
Show me on the doll where it doesn't fit. Boom.
Oh my God, I'm desperately trying to make up for it. Desperately. Oh, wow. Missionary Michael. That's okay, darling. No, that's fine. That's fine. That's fine. There are entire religious groups that really support that. They're really like, you know what? Just and don't. Also, how nice are you? You can just lie there, darling. Don't worry about it. I've got this. Are you the like where you put your feet on like the bed, the baseboard of the bed, and you just go like that?
True story.
And everyone's lying there just going, I don't count it.
Let me do my joke, alright? So, you know like what a keyhole's like? Alright? You know in a keyhole it's kind of like zigzag and it's like... Okay.
Oh, yeah. I thought we were talking like old school, like that.
What I was going to say was, if you get an old Alice in Wonderland drink me key and try to jam it in a fucking new school lock, it does not fit. There is no way you can fit that in there. No matter how like adventurous, relaxed, open-minded the key is, you're not going to fit the Alice in Wonderland key in the fucking... I
have no idea what you're talking about. I think you've lost it. I think us outing you as Missionary Michael on the internet... it's throwing the mojo entirely. He's just like, you bitches didn't know.
I think she won.
None of the bitches stopped. None of us stopped. And then all of a sudden it's like, Missionary Michael. And you're like, ding dong, I'm here. And everyone's like, oh my God.
And I've got like a first aid.
There's like nothing in it. It's just like... I only do one thing, so... I love it so much. So after a stream of events, and then I decided to stop drinking.
Yeah.
And so that was a fucking effort and a half. It is not easy, people. It is not easy, and it's not easy in the way that you think. You think it's like, oh, I can never stop drinking. I'm so I've got to drink, you know, I'm just so addicted to this substance. And that is true, but it's actually...
not a choice at the
well,
time.
it's very easy to just go, I just won't pick up a drink today. Like, that's all you have to do. You can literally lock yourself in your house and go, all I have to do is just not go to the bottle shop. You know, like, it's, oh, okay, cool. And, like, you can ring your mates or, like, you know, whatever. That's why people go to rehab. They're locked away from it. They're not touching it. But the thing that comes up is the fact that not drinking is really hard. Living in a world without being drunk or having the option to drink is really hard. That's the challenge.
What do we do instead?
What do we do instead? What do you do instead? Like, what am I going to do? And also because, like, everything is, like, amplified. So, like, you know, all of these crazy-ass stories that you've been telling yourself and the bullshit that's running through your head at all fucking times. Like, just trying to... Because you constantly... Like, when you're fucking around like that so badly, like we were saying, like, where did the booze come from? Like, obviously, you know, it's either being stolen, manipulated, whatever. Wherever it's coming from, it's not just sort of, sorry. What's her name? Rhonda. Who wrote The Secret? Deborah. It's one of those names.
Rhonda, Deborah.
Rhonda/Deborah. And... You know, it doesn't just sort of, oh, look, it's just, oh, I walked down the street and there it was. It's like, you do kind of like, you know, it has to come from somewhere. And, you know, you've been living a life of like lies, manipulation, deceit, blah, blah, blah. Like you haven't been showing up to things. You haven't been fronting up for anything at all, ever. You front up to get drunk. That's fine. But everything else is just, you know, whatever. And... So you've got all of that running through your head at all times. That's how you manage life. And then, but when you drink, that noise becomes very quiet. And that's why it's a relief.
So my book, Plug, July 2018, starts to look at what am I going to replace this with, right? And it was, as I was trying to get it together, I started to go, oh, it feels pretty good when I like do a bit of exercise, when... you know, playing a bit of basketball or something like that. And I'd go, oh, I kind of like how this feels. And, like, first of all, eating it all when you're an addict. Eating it all, right? Because you, like, don't realise
these. Are these people saying things?
Yeah.
Oh, that bless. So is that guy watching right now?
Yeah, hey, Paul.
Oh, get out. How interesting. Sorry I look like shit, Paul.
Calm down. You're breaking the third wall.
Sorry, go. Sorry, go. Go, Paul, go. I mean, missionary, go. I'm listening.
You know the most enlightening thing that I found out from sobriety? There's more than one position, right? And you know, if you do missionary with the girl on top, that's still the same position, but it's not. It's another position. But it's still the same position, but it's not. AKA Rough Rider. But still missionary.
I just love how the second we touch, like, sexual prowess, this is all we're going to talk about now. In every way, shape, or form. I'll be like, oh, discussing life. Like, oh, how do I handle sobriety? And Michael's like, I can fuck bitches really good, okay?
That's
they love it. They love it.
That's not what happened.
They love it. They love it.
That's not what happened. It was you.
Fuck off! And then you just storm out of the room.
I will storm.
And then you hear like a door slam and then like general yelling from behind. You know the muffled yelling when the person's like, you just go fuck yourself. Oh
just sing the song. Sing the Missionary Michael song.
Missionary Michael. Okay. Doing one position.
Nailing one position. Nailing it.
Oh my god. What did they say?
Stop reading.
Oh, I love it. I love it.
So, things to fill the hour. No, that's a
Things to fill the hour. Oh my god, how fucking good. Where did that start? Was that something I got? Was that a message I received?
No,
about,
there was
like,
a Tinder guy was like...
And it was like, well, you know, maybe like, as though like, you know, for a full hour we'd be making sweet, passionate missionary love. And I'm like...
An hour?
An hour?
That was where it started.
Really? But like, really? Like, are you actually trying to convince me that it's going to go for an hour? Like, but an hour? But also just an hour.
Yeah.
Like, it was just
exactly.
an hour. It was like, you can't... No more, no less. Like, just straight hour. Yeah, and then we made up all those things that could fill the hour.
I consulted several female comedians.
So funny.
And just funny
it was
female
so,
girls.
Can you find it again?
Female girls, is that a thing? Female girls, yeah.
Oh, why not?
There's a secret page on my website. If you find it, you can read the hilarious comments written by
gold.
I think the best
my God,
one.
It's so gold. Wasn't it like 52 minutes of crying? Like there was
Yeah,
it's like
4 minutes of fumbling, 4 minutes of 52 minutes. But the best one was
30 seconds of jizzing in his own pants.
the best one was my brother's wife wrote 30 seconds of taking a nipple shot and then 59 minutes of like being upset that you sent it to your whole phone book.
I love it. Some of them are gold. I wish we could find them. They were so funny.
Bunch of comedians. Yeah. So
Oh,
my
good.
website's bodylanguage.com.au. If you can find the secret page, things that can fill the hour.
So good. It was so good. It was like,
Comedy.
it was about 3 or 4 solid days of like just sending messages back and forth about, and it was things that could fill the hour. And here's the fun activity for you and your friends. Like, instead of, you know, like it's like how would loser fill the hour that he's proposing that you guys would have sex? And so we had all kinds of shit. We had like, you know, 2 minutes of attempting to take your belt off, like all sorts of things.
3 minutes of apologising.
Oh, so much apologising. So many people bust out apologies, like, and the pre-apology. So like 6 minutes of pre-apologising, because the pre-apology theory. I just feel like you need to know these terms to play along. So pre-apology is when, so I have a girlfriend and both her and I have this like light obsession with micro penises, and not in the way that we would like to date someone with a micro penis, but more like the horror at finding a surprise micro penis. Like, it's more like, oh my God, is there a micro penis? And not less like, you know, sort of anything along the spectrum of kind of like penis sizes, because we're very accepting and open-minded. I'm talking micro penis, like a picture, like a little tiny cock and balls. Anyway, sorry, I'm offending everyone, but it's
my Facebook.
But, however, how do you predict when there's going to be a micro penis? Like, how do you know? And we feel like there are signs. And so the number one glaring obvious sign that there is a micro penis is that you're being pre-apologized to for the micro penis. And so, for example, instead of just, you know, going out like regular people and everyone's having a good time, and then there's like, you know, some touching or whatever, and then, you know, somebody goes back to someone else's house and everyone's really cruisy and easygoing about, like, you know, maybe touching each other and boning. It's very, there's an over-exaggerated dating process. Like, it's all very like, oh, let me drive up to your door and, oh, princess and flowers and blah, blah, blah. And I'm not saying that this behaviour is, you know, in like bad. It's like, great, buy people some fucking flowers. But it's lovely. But when you feel like it's coming on pretty strong, when you're sort of like, it's been 6 dates now, and I'm now at, you know, the Lobster Bar in a fucking revolving restaurant overlooking, you know, whatever, and I've, you know, maybe touched his hand once.
So that's a pink
and
flag.
made out. It's the micro penis flag. It's the flag that is waving and telling you
Pre-apologising.
that you are being pre-apologised to, because you're in so deep at that point, because you've been to the revolving restaurant and somebody's hired a limo and it's all over the top and you're freaking out and you're kind of like, wow, like, is he super romantic? I don't even know. And your girlfriend's like, he's got a tiny dick, and you're like, no, it can't be. But then you're in, and then he's, you know, hired a hotel room for your first time because it's so special and I love you, and you're kind of like, and then you show up, and I will place $1 million on the fact that there's a micro dick. The other micro dick telltale sign,
So?
He keeps his pants on but goes down on you. Micro D. Hands down. Micro D. Because if you're all like swept up in the magic of, you know, someone going down on you, and you're like, oh my God, that was so great. Hopefully you'll overlook the fact that you haven't returned the favour. Or like, why is his pants still on? That's interesting.
A question. You've obviously discussed the pink flags.
The pink flags of the micro D.
Have you ever discussed with your friend, is there like a micro penis poker face that's like, you know, just...
Oh, it's very like, oh, I'm just sitting here cool, calm and collected, PS.
My pants are on while I'm going down on you. And you're like...
But also trying to play it like, oh, I'm just a really giving dude, or because the thing is, I feel bad for guys because like if you're a chick and you're just kind of like, oh, you know, like I'm not kind of into it, or you know, like I've got some weird body hang-ups or whatever the fuck it is, you can be like, oh, I've got my period, ha ha ha, and then you don't have to participate, and you could everything be going on. You could be having like a herp outbreak and no one fucking knows. Like you're sitting there going like, I can keep the herp to myself now for at least another 6 months before the next one comes up. And I've got, period. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Haven't waxed, whatever the fuck your hang up is, whatever.
You
but
can write it off, yeah.
Dudes don't have that. There's no excuse to be like, oh, please don't touch me downstairs.
Question. Did you see this thing recently in the news, and by the news I mean social media, about the prostitute that shot a guy in the head twice for doing a bad job of going down on her? So apparently she shot him in the head because he was doing a bad job. While he was
going down?
Yeah, and apparently she sort of didn't feel like she could tell him that he was doing a bad job. This is her story after the fact. She stole 12 grand from him after shooting him in the head twice.
Who's this guy?
And then said it was because he was doing a bad job.
Why is he in this situation? A, why are you taking $12,000?
I reckon it was a regular client. She knew he had money, killed him, and then just went... He
just thought of the first insane thing that could happen.
Yeah, and maybe he regularly gave her bad head jobs, and that was part of the reason that she was just like, oh, God damn it.
No, I don't reckon it had anything to do with the head jobs.
Yeah, I reckon a lie, But maybe, maybe he did really just do a terrible job. And
like he was just kind of shit. And then, but I don't think she would have been like, oh, I'm done with it. Because she's being paid to sit there. And if he was to like, suck on some fucking vag flaps to get him off, that's fine.
With his pants on, no doubt.
Pants on, no doubt. Definitely micro D.
Pink
do you reckon? I don't know. It's interesting. So we're off topic, obviously, at this point.
What? There's no rundown. We're just like meandering towards madness, and trying to act like normal people.
We're trying to figure out like how to
be normal,
face normal situations with abnormal brain capacity. I look like Annie Lennox.
You seem quite sure.
That's what's going on.
You seem quite sure that only knowing missionary is not the path to righteousness. Like. That's not what normal people do. I thought we were trying to be normal. I thought that being missionary Michael was my salvation. It's basically in the eyes of God, or whatever God you believe in.
Do you reckon the missionary position is in the Bible?
There's a lot of ridiculous shit in there.
Can we get a Bible? There's so much crazy shit in there. There is so much crazy shit in there. I can't even begin. Me and Michael have spent at least an afternoon at this point trying to figure out how the Day of Reckoning is geographically possible.
Yeah, feel free to chime in.
At any point. If you can do the maths on this, I would love to hear it. So, Day of Reckoning, it's in the book of Revelations. It's the very, very, very end of the Bible. It's the last few, 20 pages, whatever. And so, essentially, the general gist is, because if I go into it, it's very repetitive. Whoever wrote it was a bad writer. It's like a 12-year-old being like... And then we went to... Oh, it's not even 12-year-old. It's like an 8-year-old who... Then the teacher's like, oh, tell us about your weekend, Johnny. And Johnny's like, me and my dad went to the zoo. At the zoo, me and my dad were at the zoo. And there are animals there. And we saw them at the zoo with my dad. And me and my dad... at the zoo, and then we had chips. And you're just kind of like, you're borderline illiterate at this point, Johnny. Like,
except the kid
I
is
failed
Jesus.
as a teacher. Except the kid is God. And
no,
God,
his dad is God.
His dad is God.
And
God is trying to tell us, like his word through this guy who can't fucking write. And so, essentially... It's like a dyslexic Cyrano de Bergerac is fucking trying to do this shit. Whispering like, oh, and then just say that again. It's like, I've already written that sentence, God, I don't give a fuck. And he's writing it again. And so what happens is that on the Day of Reckoning, which is some undisclosed day, whenever.
It was meant to be last year, wasn't it?
It's meant to be any year. There's no day. And also, it's it's a roll of the dice at this point. And so... everyone on the planet, living or dead, anyone who's ever been living or dead, at this day of reckoning. So just say it's today. So it's everybody who's ever lived and ever died and is living right now. So that's a lot of people. And for our first question, with this very first sentence, our first question is that cave people? Yeah. And then my friend raised a very good point, because there are people, as we all know, Rangers have Neanderthal DNA. We all do, to some extent. Everyone's got a slight percentage of Neanderthal DNA. What's the cutoff? Like, you know how Rangers have that whole Rangers have no souls thing? I'm like, is this a thing?
But
like,
didn't you say that
does the Book of Revelations actually say this is a thing? He's a Ranger. He's a large, giant, beautiful Ranger. Is he spared?
Did you feel his solo when you were, like, spooning with him?
Well, I mean, we did talk about it a couple of times, and he was very, like, the taste of children's souls is sweeter. He actually said that sentence to me once. P.S. It was gold. But what's the fucking cutoff? And if you're going to take the evolutionist line of, you know, we evolved from monkeys, etc.,
orangutans, apparently.
Or bonobos. They're quite...
Fertile, evolved,
chimpanzees, etc. What is the cutoff? What is the DNA cutoff that specifies a person as a person? And is it cave people? Is it Stone Age? Obviously it's Stone Age people. And then it's Adam and Eve. And then my mum piped in on this. And so she's like dropping all kinds of crazy shit. She's like, Hitler's coming back. Like, everyone's coming back. And so all of those people. So, but we don't know what the cutoff is.
I reckon that if Santa's making a list and checking it twice of the sins and whether you get to go to heaven or not...
Hang on, you're jumping forward. You're jumping out of the geography. All of those people have to gather in the valley of the Tigris and Euphrates River.
But there has to be a list of people who were invited.
There's a list.
There has to be a list.
Like, the whole story is all those people gather in the valley of the Tigris and Euphrates River, and a throne descends, a golden throne.
Oh, okay.
And everybody lines up in front of it. And then there's the list. There's the two books. There's the Book of the Living and the Book of the Dead. And you have to ask which one your name is in. So if you haven't accepted God into your heart and Lord Jesus as your saviour, you're in the Book of the Dead. Auto
Oh, so
in.
you die. You.
But it doesn't matter. If you have not done that at any point, living or dead, you're in it. The Book of the Living is people who have accepted Jesus Christ as their Lord and Saviour, and then they're in Book of the Living. Back to the names. Because again, another question was raised.
Yeah, because if you're a caveman with no name, then you can't be in either book.
You're not in either book.
Or are people assigned a name?
But also, so the way the Christians say it is that someone has to witness Jesus for me. Somebody who has witnessed Jesus witnesses Jesus for me. Okay, so I'm like, okay, great. Who's witnessing Jesus for cavemen?
Yeah.
Who's doing that? No one's done it. No one gave them the chance. I feel like that is wrong.
But if you were a Christian time traveller, surely you would go back and offer salvation.
You'd have to. Like, that would have to be part of your missionary work. The other part of your missionary work would have to be...
My missionary work.
Go to... So, if anyone has seen the actual landmass of, like, the actual area of the Valley of the Tigris and the Euphrates River, it's small. It's surprisingly small.
I actually Google mapped it.
It's not the arena spectacular you're making it out. They're making it out to be. Like, they're describing, it's in the Delta and it's great. And it's really small. And so we're like, how is everyone going to fit? Like, what is the area compared to the average area of a person? P.S. And this is a question that I raise with the zombie apocalypse, which people seem so attached to. So, zombie is reanimated dead person. Different to mummy.
Yep.
You know, so mummies aren't coming back.
No organs, yeah.
What amount of flesh still attached to bone qualifies one to be reanimated as zombie? Question.
What's the cutoff point?
What's the cutoff point? And is this but what about all those people who've, like, you know, like, really decomposed to the point where they're gone?
Yeah, like dust to dust.
Dust to dust. It's in their Bible. It's in the start. And then by the end, everyone's fucking coming back.
Wait a second. If you're partially decomposed or fully decomposed, but your spirit lives on, maybe you don't take up as much room.
No, but they're very specific about the dead being reanimated, because the whole purpose is that Jesus is the final thing that Jesus defeats, the final evil. So the way it's been explained to me is that when Adam and Eve ate the apple and got cast out of the Garden of Eden, that's when death became a thing. Because if we were still living in the Garden of Eden, that's eternal life.
Oh, so that's heaven.
Paradise, heaven, blah, 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 eternal life. And by being cast out of the Garden of Eden, we've invited death into our existence. That's why death exists.
Oh, okay.
Because it has to, because it's all part of the pain of living.
Yeah.
And so, in order for Jesus to fully save us, he has to defeat death. So death has to go away again. And Jesus defeats it. And so the final thing that Jesus does is that he defeats death by putting death under his feet. And so then we're all saved from death, and that's when, we figure it out. But if you're in the Book of the Dead, you get thrown into the lake of fire. Again, don't know where it is. It's just blanket lake of fire.
Look, I'm going to have to stop you there, Caroline. But so is Jesus going to, fight the Grim Reaper?
Jesus is fighting death.
In a cage match.
This is what I'm asking.
And then stands on him in the space of the...
Is that appropriate MMA fighting rules?
I reckon, if you just kind of stand on them and how to flex, and that just saved everyone with salvation. I think that's acceptable. I think that's an acceptable finish. The question is, if this is happening...
It's very Sub-Zero. Oh, yeah. He's stuck and then he's down.
If this is happening between the Tigris and Euphrates River...
In that valley.
And everyone's there to watch Jesus fight the Grim Reaper... How much is the balcony seats? Because that's the seats you would want.
And this is the other thing.
Match, right?
Am I in the blimp? Am I in the balcony? Do I have picnic space? Am I general admission?
You don't want to be general admin.
You're not could you be... Usually general admin's the good seats. You know how they try to rip you by being like, oh, this seat is like $100 billion and general admission $20. And so every cheap cunt on the universe fucking... buys the $20 ticket and you're stuck with $170 ticket where you're like, I'm just being fucking ripped off. And I've got a side view from the corner.
Yeah.
Which is some bullshit. And then some fuckhead security guy's like, you guys can't stand up. And you're just like, what the fuck did I pay money for? This is just some bullshit.
Every time.
So you know what I mean? Do you really want the balcony seating? That's my question. My experience with balcony seating has never been positive. You
don't want to be in an end of days mosh pit though? With fucking zombies and shit.
Well, everyone's in a line anyway.
Oh, okay, there is a line.
But I mean, and the thing is, if you think it's a book. So just say, you and me are thrown, we're there. And we're like, okay. And they're like, what's your name? You're like, Michael Zuper. And you go, okay. And then he's going through the whole book.
Yeah, but I'm Zed, so it's easy.
But this is the thing, because the question of, do cavemen have names, hasn't been answered yet. Is it just say, date when you died?
Oh, hello. Because then just one page. Today, yesterday, the day before that.
Yeah, and you're kind of like, sometime in the 70s.
Yeah. AD. There'll all be AD for people that are living. And then... Oh, yeah, but BC. Do you reckon they'll do the BCs
BC's
last,
a lot.
But the dead people come later.
But also, there's just so many fucking holes in this thing. I cannot be... It's just Tommy's trip to the zoo. Nothing's been covered. Nothing has been covered. How much did it cost you to get in? What time did you show up? Which zoo, Tommy? Which fucking zoo? Just...
I see.
Be descriptive.
Is God going to be there, or is it just Jesus?
No. God...
You think he'd come?
God's out of it. Because I just think God's a bit of a cunt. He's sort of sitting there just going oh, God. Just Jesus, can you just sort this shit out? Just sort it the fuck out. Jesus is clearly incompetent. Jesus is clearly not the son God he thought he would have. Where it's the obviously disappointed kid. And so God's like, hey, everyone's sinning like a mother bitch down there. Can you go sort it out? Can you go show them how to live? And Jesus gets himself killed.
Yeah.
Good one, dickhead.
You're
Like,
saying
it's
God's
just
like-
like,
God's like FaceTiming
God's like,
you
sort
and
this out. And Jesus is like, got this, this is sweet, got
And then
this,
he's like,
got this.
Dad, can you pick me up?
And then he's like, I don't know what happened. And then, like, he's sort of like, oh my God, you nufty. And so, like, people, like, pushing back the rock, like, come on, dickhead. Like, get Jesus out of that cave. And God's like, just not again. You know what I mean? Everyone's like, why has it gone to shit since Jesus' time? Well, did you see the mess he fucking made? Like, God's like, nah. No, I gave him a desk job. Like, he just was not up to the task. And now we've got this book written by people who followed the challenged child, and this is the shit we're left with, because Jesus is like, don't worry, motherfuckers, when I go back, because I'll go back, because, you know, like, this obviously isn't a career, I'll, what I'll do is I'll get, there's this dope throne in my dad's cinema room, I'll bring that down, and then we'll just sort it out from there. And so people are like, oh, great idea, Jesus. Like, let's write this down. And he's like, well, whereabouts? And he's like, oh...
Tigris Euphrates.
Tigris Euphrates, man. Like...
The valley.
Back in the day, that joint must have been... That was the Tijuana of the Middle Eastern Stone Ages.
Maybe that was the place to put on a fight night, you know? Maybe
I reckon that was the Tijuana of the Middle Eastern Stone Ages.
Mm.
I reckon that's where people were like... Yeah, like, what are you doing for spring break? Oh, Tigris Euphrates.
Yeah,
like,
word.
wow,
Like
2000 BC, motherfuckers. And everyone's making t-shirts and shit. Like, they're playing Time of Your Life by fucking Green Day and having this really crazy time on the road trip down. That's what's going on.
I was just thinking, what would Jesus' entrance music be? And what would the Grim Reaper's, what would Death's entrance music be?
Oh, see, I think Death has got his shit tight. Like... Death has his shit tight at this point. He's got it on lock. So that's a very hard question to answer. Jesus, the easy answer is... What is that terrible song? What's a Nickelback classic? You know, everyone would go, oh, Jesus was in Nickelback. Because he would. He would. He fucking would. If you're going to argue with that, what's wrong with you?
This is how you remember
me of what I really am. And then Jesus reckons he's like banging open the door at that point.
He's showing up
to the bottom of every bottle. And he's like, you know, Jane hurt me so badly. Although Jesus wouldn't even date someone called Jane. He'd date someone like, I don't know. I'm going to offend somebody by saying some arsehole.
Look, let the blasphemy flow freely, alright? I'll deal with it later. Right. So,
he's going to mop up the tears of the Christians after I leave.
Don't worry.
Salty Christian tears.
Your salvation is right here, my friend.
It's fine.
Go forth.
It's fine.
But, be brilliant.
But yeah, like it's sort of, I don't know. Oh, Grim Reaper. I need some, because somebody's going to come out with like, he'd listen to more Chiba or some shit. Like, he'd just be a legend. You know what I mean?
I reckon it'd be something so shameless.
Steel Panther!
Yeah.
Well, I guess you never guessed when you came to the show. You'd be sitting on the bus with me and doing some blow.
I kind of want Death to win now.
It's in the parking lot.
Forget our
looking
sins.
for you. She's gonna find you when I'm done. All covered with goo. Ooh,
Who wants to see Jesus win anyway?
this little girl got no sticky. It's so good. That is such a good song.
Imagine if the sins of the world were taken away as well, and we were reinstated eternal life. It's kind of like, what's the point, you know?
Well,
at this stage, you know.
The thing is, the issue with all of this kind of stuff is, so when my dad passed away, obviously, if anyone's lost a parent or brother, sister, child, I'm right there with you. I know exactly what it's like. It's fucking horrific. And one of the things that I think people find most confusing is because death is so painful, losing somebody never to be seen of again is so horrific that you're very like, why does death exist? And there's no reason for this, then there's no reason for life, and you go to an existential crisis, you have this terrible time. And I had a couple of girlfriends who were reading a book called Up in Smoke, which I strongly recommend for everybody to read. And it was written by this woman who, when she was about 23, so she was terrified of death for some reason. And why is that message?
Never mind.
Never mind, just move on. So I've had a cold for all of my natural life, and it just won't go away. Anyway, so she's 23 years old, she's terrified of death, and she decides to confront this thing. And she goes and gets a job at a crematorium, and they do everything. So they mostly cremations, but there's also a guy who comes in and does like the mummification process for, you know, regular coffin funerals and stuff. And while she's working in the crematorium, she's getting obviously hands-on with death and dealing with all kinds of different bodies in all kinds of different states that they come in. Like, you know, they died peacefully in hospital, they were found 4 weeks later, you know, in their apartments, whatever. And in working at the crematorium, so she's writing the story of the work that she's doing day to day, and she's also investigating how people all around the world face and deal with death. And it's just, some of the things she writes about are just fascinating. Like, you know, that there are these sort of tribal groups that are there tissues in this room?
I'm going to get you. Keep talking about the thing.
Okay, so there's like a tribal group which actually participates in a form of cannibalism. And what they do is they wipe, so when somebody dies, somebody in the group dies, it's the role of the rest of the group as part of the grieving process to eradicate that person off the face of the planet. So anything that they built, anything they planted, anything they owned, are just torched. Like, they just scorch the earth with this person. And it's also the role of some other people within the group, and it could be people they're friends with, or I don't think it's their relations. I think it has to be just people that they're like closely associated with. Also act to consume the body. They actually eat the body. And in doing so, the person is completely gone, and it's this whole process, and it's this whole ritual and spiritual practice and blah, blah, blah. And it's what they do. And so she's got different, you know, sort of layman's explanations of these different practices around the planet to do with, like, death and the celebration of or mourning of or whatever. And, I wish Mike could sleep but would come back. And, yeah, and so what it does is that by the end of the book, she has had this real psychic change when it comes to her attitudes towards death and dying, to the point where she's not scared of it anymore. And so she can kind of like appreciate it for what it is and kind of be like, you know, it's obviously, and not to remove the sense of, you know, like really sort of shattering and life-changing grief and loss, which is what I experienced. I was very empty and it was awful, and I'm not the same person, and it very much changed who I am. And it kind of was, I don't know, like my emotions changed and stuff, but it wasn't terrifying. And I think that when people have this sort of, they aren't able to kind of come to a point where bad things happen in life, bad things happen, people die. I'm just sort of talking about like the death stuff. He's back, he's got a bin and toilet paper stuck above my nose. It's going to be disgusting.
Do what you gotta do.
Do what you gotta do, girl. But I'm just saying that when bad things happen, bad things happen. And I think it's like, it's all about, you know, sort of your psychic perspective of those things. And I think when people turn to religion to kind of explain to them, oh, the bad things happen, but, you know, it's going to be okay, it's going to be okay. And it's kind of like, because, you know, everyone's like, will it? Will I be okay? Like, I don't even know, and I'm lost, and I'm alone. I'm going to drink some of this colour.
My concern is, you know, there's this whole thing about, you know, the Illuminati was a satanic response to people starting to question the religious teachings, and they're like, hang on, this doesn't make sense, and there's no proof, and you guys are just telling us to take, you know, your word for it. And then they started having these ceremonies where instead of everyone having the communion and that, they had, instead of Christ being up, it was a statue of him, and they'd whip it and they'd piss on it.
And it was upside down. And
yeah. So they started doing this anti-religion stuff, and then it became this like, scientists, we only want to believe in stuff that there's proof, and the Enlightenment was like questioning the government and finding out you know, it was this whole like, actually, what's really going on here? And then these people starting to do research into this a long time ago is now apparently the media manipulating us and stuff because they figured out what was really going on, what people are like, and
well, I mean, I think that a lot of us live in fear. It's the fear of the real and having to turn to things that, or it's the fear of kind of like, you know, sort of the unarguable facts of life. You know, we all die. And
do certain people know what we want to hear? So they go, at this point in time, people really need to hear this, and so that's the message we're putting out there.
I don't think it's at this point in time. I think people need to hear the exact same thing, that, you know, you're going to be okay. I think that's a lot of it, because, you know, we've got all these innate instincts for survival, and we've got this instinctual drive to make us okay. And, you know, sort of, our planet has become more and more full and of other people. You know, I think we have this belief that there's, you know, and also we can just look around us and see there's a finite amount of resources. You know, instinct, survival, life, being alive. And, you know, so we just want somebody to be like, it's okay. And however that's packaged, if it's packaged in a way that, I don't know, because, you know, like when you have sort of like these moments of clarity and stuff where you just go, why am I thinking this? Why am I doing this? Or what's going on? It's like something can quickly zip into that moment of clarity and go, well, it's this way. And you go, oh my God. Like,
that works right now.
That's me done. I believe it now.
Because I was wondering a while ago, I talked to a few people about this. If,
how much longer?
Okay. If, you know, the state of, you know, obviously we're a lot more accepting of not only homosexuality, but now all the different letters that go after whatever in the LGBTIQ.
The A to Z.
And now they want to put
gender and sexuality.
Now they want to put pedophile in that as well.
Do they really though? Like, are people actually sitting here saying, well, yeah, but the thing is, it's because, you know, like you open up sort of, I don't know, sexual difference and stuff, and where people are like, oh, but then it's okay to marry my dog. And you're just like, well, it's not, you fucking freak. Like,
I do think that just going, fuck those cunts, is not enough of a solution. And that maybe if we go, oh, that person has child sexual attraction syndrome, now, you know, we put them in a room where there's as much kiddie porn as they want, or not allowed anywhere near kiddie porn, you know what I mean? Like, come up with something that's like, okay, we're going to deal with this other than go fuck that shit and like send them to jail where they get their dick chopped off and murdered. Happened very recently. Some dude was
but then like, you know, sort of, but the second you start to try to like treat one sexuality, then you need to treat them all.
Okay.
Because I think that's how people view it.
So we can't.
Because we're all like, I think we're always going to argue about this because, you know, like, obviously, like if we look at it purely biologically, I do not, you know, sort of support this kind of, you know, gays are bad shit. I'm whatever, but purely biologically.
You've got heaps of gay friends. What are you talking about? Anyway, go on.
Except for Ian McKellen, who hates me. It's a fact, he hates me. His manager asked me to stop talking to him. Because I made the suggestion that Ian McKellen should drink whiskey out of a hollowed out diamond. Anything other than the biological, you know, union of egg and sperm carried in woman's uterus or female uterus, you know, it can be considered deviant. You know, and then that's everything. That's oral sex, masturbation.
I only know that one position, so don't.
I mean, obviously, Michael Zuper is, you know, the only person who's really following following biology at this point. But, you know, like jacking off could be considered deviant behaviour. Actually, in the Bible, I said spilling the seed unnecessarily or something. So yeah, well, because it's like they're sitting there with this real biological kind of determination, like. And then, because the thing is, it's like, you know, if you look at sort of like animals and the way that they breed, they have mating seasons, you know what I mean? Like, female comes into heat, all these males get attracted to the pheromones, like 4 or 5 mate with her, and, you know, she gets pregnant, blah, 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 moves forward, and then her body shuts down because, and, you know, a human woman's body would do the same thing, like when you're breastfeeding and stuff, like you want to ovulate and yada, yada, yada. And so it's like the same thing, but and then her body shuts down, and then, you know, next mating season comes along, and, you know, the process begins again. But, you know, for people, it's like, we're dealing with things like sexual attraction, you know.
And my question is that stuff being redirected to not creating more children because we're overpopulated? And it's like, suddenly there's men going their own way who are not interested in women. Maybe not a feminist backlash, maybe not a third way back, but just biological. Like, can't be bothered.
Because the brain's
can't
evolving.
Be bothered. Girls can't be bothered with boys. Boys can't be bothered with girls. Everyone wants to jack off onto a dog instead. Do you know what I mean? It's like, now it's like our sexuality is not heading towards procreation because, like, it's the Earth's way of dealing with
I don't think it's the Earth's way of dealing with anything.
You know what I mean?
I think that the human brain is intensely imaginative and creative. Like, if you look at the world that we live in, it is like all the, you know, buildings, designs, products, objects, blah, blah, blahs that exist are the product of intense, and quite astounding, to be perfectly honest with you, imagination and creativity. Because, you know, like, obviously it all starts in the mind. Like, if you imagine it, you know, then you can create it. You can't create it and then go, I imagined what it would look like, you know, now. It's like, it needs to be thought before it exists. And so I just think that all of that sort of sexuality stuff is coming out of a brain which is incredibly well tuned to imagination, fantasy, problem solving, all that kind of stuff. And so, you know, like, the second you add on anything to just natural, but to biological procreation drive. I'm not going to say it's natural, but that idea that, you know, like, one of our instincts is to, you know, repopulate. You add anything onto that. So I think the sexual attraction is probably, like, I haven't done a study or anything like that, but it must come out of some form of, like, creativity or whatever, because, like, you know, I'm attracted to things that you aren't attracted to. You're attracted to things where I'm like, he shows me some pictures sometimes and I'm like, bro, even though you would snuggle up to a large ginger Viking, and don't you tell me otherwise,
that's your thing, right?
It's true. It's so true. Can't you imagine? Like, come here, gentle soul, and you're like,
is that me crying or is that you crying?
That's you crying.
Okay.
That's you crying, being patted by the largest ginger beard in the universe. But I just think it's all a form of kind of, like, I don't think it's the earth telling us anything. I think it's our brains being really sort of, like, different creative neural pathways are being created in all kinds of different ways.
But if not the earth, then collective consciousness. There's some part of us that's going, stop making babies, be attracted to other creative, imaginative things.
I think it's things outside of ourselves that's telling us to not create babies. I think it's putting hurdles in our own minds.
Yeah, my question is that our way of justifying that nature is telling us to stop making people? That, you know, mentally we're able to rationalise logically that, actually, I'm attracted to this, which doesn't lead to...
Or having a baby right now isn't a good idea for me, so I'm not going to do it.
And, like, too difficult to get along with the other sex, so... Not going to do that. You know what I mean? Like, too difficult. Everyone's running this, like, it's too difficult thing, you know?
Yeah, relationships are hard.
It's like...
You know that classic,
really.
Relationships take work. Relationships are hard. It's like, just like, well...
acceptance, and that's all. And that's all.
You could accept that fellow soul whose penis is inside you. Who you slip digits to, as opposed to micro Ds to. Should we wrap it up? It's 7...
We can't wrap it up on micro Ds.
You can wrap it up on micro Ds. Don't even talk to me. My friend Millie. My friend Millie messaged me. Hi Millie, I wish you were watching, but you're at work, you said.
Stop breaking the fourth wall. Now.
What? I'm just chatting innocently to my friend Millie.
In conclusion, what do normal people do besides have sex with weird things? The sex robots as well. Now we're going to have sex robots. People aren't going to have sex with each other anymore. There's going to be no more babies. We're going to have sex with a lot of robots.
Oh my God.
Because we can program them to be delightful.
If there is one baby on the planet that women can... Because I know for me, and the thing is, like, look at me, like, oh, I look like mother of the fucking year. A baby comes anywhere near me, and I ovulate instantly. Like, they are so fucking cute. And I went from... My dad used to be like... My dad was a real sucker. He was a sucker for a baby. And... Like, a baby would be like, And Dad would be like, oh, why is that baby squeaking? And I'm like, oh, because it's a fucking cunt. Like, just fuck that kid. And now I see a little baby and I'm just like, oh my God. Like I'm the creep who would kidnap the baby. Like, I'm that psycho. I just love them. I love them so much. I just want them on and near me and to hold my hand with their, like, to hold my finger with their little
That's
hand.
good shit.
Oh my God, it's such good shit. Like, this one's bloody nephew with the fat dimples, his little fat body. Oh my God. It's just so, if one baby's on the planet, someone's fallopian tubes will just start popping fucking eggs out. Like,
So what you're saying is they should borrow the child and use him as, like, put him on
make a
fishing
robot
rod
kid, and that's how you're getting... to just be like, you know, ovaries popping, like, done. They're so... Oh, they are a drug. They're so cute. They are so bloody cute. They're amazing. So, what are we, in conclusion?
Use a baby
to get
attract
pregnant.
women.
Do it. Okay.
Is that what normal people do?
Yeah, that's what
We haven't gotten anywhere with what normal people do. Like, I think normal people do believe in Jesus, and we just, like, blasphemed for at least an hour. It was fun. It was delightful.
I believe in there being a God. I think that's very, very true. I think spirituality is a beautiful thing, and I think prayer and meditation are wonderful practices. You know, they're very calming, and they give you sort of a sense of connection to the world, and I think it's wonderful. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm saying that the Book of Revelations has maybe fibbed a little bit.
And there was no mention of micropeni in the
Well, we just had to come across micropeni. I was never warned about micropenises. Okay. If I had known that there would be micropenises up in this bitch, I would not have shown up.
You've been on guard ever since finding out.
Oh my God, I've never found a micropenis. My friend has, and she was like, it was bad because she accidentally became externally shocked as opposed to just internalizing it and just being like, And instead, there was a physical reaction.
It's like when Dan Merriweather asked you what you thought of his album, you should have just been internally
telling him how shit his music, which I don't even believe. I think he's great. And I listened to some of his stuff just recently and I was like, wow, Daniel Merriweather's a very, very talented man. He's got a very beautiful voice. He's quite musically gifted.
Why were we both so mean to him?
I have no idea. Well, he did have really dyed red hair at one point, remember? And we called him Raving Ron, like as in Ronald McDonald.
Oh, I didn't know.
We were terrible.
That's funny.
Terrible people.
Word.
We named a person at our high school Stumpy Maria because she was short and she used to wear platforms. And don't try to be like, oh, Caroline, that was so bad when you were right there.
I don't remember that, but it does sound hilarious. And
he was right there. We used to sit in this set of stairs all together with our Nokia mobile phones where the analog, where it used to like scroll like around on the text message.
Yeah.
Like on a blimp. Like, you know, on those like electric signs made out of the dots and they like scroll through. That's how the text messages used to work.
Wow.
We're like 50,000 years old. My kid gets really angry at me because like I keep on showing him rave documentaries from the 90s and one of them, me and my friends are in it. And I'm like, it's me... Oh, I won't say their names because that's a bit rude, but it's me and the people that you know.
Yeah.
All exactly, and every picture tells a story, I think in 1998 or 1999. And
I mentioned
like,
it in my book, actually.
Raving our faces off, like out in Altona, like psychos. And I showed it to my kid and he's just so unimpressed. And I keep on saying to him, just like, the reason you're here is because Mum and Dad met at a rave party, which is true. We made out at a rave party, everybody, and what was it? Like, I think 14 months later, Asher was born. So, and he's just like, that's not funny, Mum. Like, there's nothing to be proud of. And I'm just like, lol. Like, You're here because of ecstasy.
Yeah. MD is the reason.
MD, literally.
MD gave him life.
Ecstasy pills are the reason my kid exists. Like, that is.
That's what gave him life.
That's what gave him life. I remember I'd taken an ecstasy. So his dad had been in a very bad motorbike accident. And I'm sitting on the ground. I've taken ecstasy. I look up. I hadn't seen him since the motorbike accident. And I look up. And there's this light shining, and all I see is this silhouette of this guy on crutches, leaning down at me going, Caroline, Caroline. And I'm just like, what? And I'm like, oh my God. And I stood up, and that's when the ecstasy decided to hit me. And I sort of grabbed the guy on the crutches and started making out with him.
So not on the crutch, but on the crutches.
He was on crutches, and I remember I had it, like, I grabbed it. It was like I was eating his face off, and we made out for, I'm going to say, 3 hours, because I was very high, and
that's how Asher was born.
And that was Asher's dad. So... That's why
That's fascinating. It really is fascinating that that's how your child was compiled. Not conceived, but compiled. You know?
Put together. A random series of events. Okay, so is that us done? Have we done it?
Normal People's Playbook. Bodylanguage.com.au. You can pre-order my book as well, which is about addiction, which we talked a lot about today. And Body Language on Facebook. There's a picture of me, so you'll go, that's it, Body Language. All right? Stay in the loop. I'm going to be doing a bunch of stuff this year to build the brand, but it will all be entertaining. It's all going to be fun and entertaining, slightly informative, fairly ridiculous. Thank you very much for coming.
That's okay. We're doing this again. Are we doing this again?
Yeah, this is episode 1. Oh,
okay, so we're doing it. I may be in for 3 episodes.
Less blasphemy next time.
So much less blasphemy, I promise. We'll just see what happens this week. That was last week. This is a fresh new week for us all.
Yep.
We just had to cleanse. And I feel better about it.
I feel better as well.
Okay.
Stay tuned for more songs about the sexual positions that I know. Goodbye.